welcome back to my channel. It's Sara Sue here, and welcome to a Q&A. Oh, wow, so there's a list of questions I have on a journal notebook. It looks like this. So I'm going to be reading off of it, and then I'm going to be answering some of y'all's questions that you may have. But if you're new to the Sue family, what are you doing? Click that subscribe button. Click the bell so you get notified when I post. And please, please, please give this video a thumbs up. And then join the Sue family. What we do here, we learn ASL, I answer questions, I teach you all, and I basically give out advice for people who want to interact with deaf people and the deaf culture, learn more about it, dig in really deep and everything. So yeah, so let's get on with the video and enjoy. So I'm just gonna start right now because yeah. So number one, what do I do in my own time? What do I do in my own time? I basically plan out videos. I think about like what type of videos I want to post or what type of interactions I want to do with you guys, what type of activities, what type of lessons to plan. I train my dog, Acel, which you all have met like a few videos ago. I tend to look and watch other deaf influencers because they inspire me to be the best I can. Or I like to work out because who doesn't like working out? You know, number two, how would life be without hearing aids if they weren't created? Honestly, my opinion, my life would be kind of hard because I come from a hearing family. They're all hearing. And when you're born deaf into a hearing family, you tend to feel like you have to blend in with them. So if hearing aids or cochlear implants, which means CI, without those, I feel like I wouldn't be where I am now because it's going to be a struggle to understand people. I feel like I wouldn't know how to speak, so I wouldn't be speaking right now if I didn't have my hearing aids or anything. But without hearing aids, I feel like it would be a struggle because my family, they only know the baby signs. They know sleep, food, clean. So they know a little bit, but not enough to communicate with me. So yeah. Number three, what are the pros and cons without hearing aids? So without me like wearing my hearing aids, the pros and cons would have to be, I'm gonna just list three. Pros is I don't have to hear no one. To be honest, I don't have to hear no one. I don't have to struggle. I don't have to read lips or nothing. Another pro is I can sign forever. I can sign as much as I want, and then also I can just talk non-stop because it only uses my hand. I don't have to use my voice all the time. I don't have to waste my breath and just breathing hard from speaking a lot. And my last pro is, I guess to say, ooh, this is hard. My last pro without my hearing aids is that it doesn't come with a headache because wearing my hearing aids for long periods of time gives me headaches. So I feel like with my hearing aids, I feel more headaches than I tend to do without my hearing.
Hey guys, I just wanted to say I didn't list all my cons, so in the next clip there is my
Question number four, what is it like meeting other deaf people? So meeting other deaf people is like meeting friends that you don't know, if that makes sense. What do I mean by that is like, it's like seeing somebody else that knows your struggles, seeing someone else who understands what it feels like not to be able to communicate by speaking or sign language or anything. Really, they can relate to you in some weird way, and it feels like they understand what you feel compared to your hearing friends. So that's how it feels. Number 5, is it rare to be deaf? In my situation, my family has never been deaf before. My situation, I was the only one born deaf. I believe it's genetics, because when I was born, my mom always said you would never hear. Like, the minute I came into this world is the minute I didn't hear anything. So I must have not been able to hear from the beginning, but I have always worn hearing aids since like 10 months old, so that got me used to hearing a lot. But yeah, so sometimes it's rare, but it's not uncommon because it depends. It's genetics, or it can be a sickness, or it can be a disease, which is basically the same thing as a sickness, but some people lose their hearing when they're old. They can lose it when they're 15, 14, doesn't matter how old you are, you can lose it whenever. It could be genetics. It could be listening to music too loud that damages your ears. There's a lot of varied ways to become deaf, but I don't recommend it because, you know, if you're hearing and you go to deaf, it's going to be complete 180 because you're not used to it. So if you're deaf, I'm proud of you for staying deaf. Number 6, is being deaf a bad thing? That's a thing that I hear all the time. Being deaf is not really a bad thing. It's really something that you can't control. So whenever a lot of people ask me, like, do you feel like you hate being deaf? I'm always like, no, not really, because I was born with it, so I don't know what life is like being able to hear as well as good at hearing people. But to me, it feels like I'm normal. I have a secret superpower. So that's for me. I don't know about other deaf people, but for me, I feel like it's not a bad thing. I feel blessed. I feel happy. I feel confident with myself. So, yeah. What influenced you to join the deaf community? So this is a really deep question because, as my intro video says, I tried to blend in the hearing world because, you know, sometimes you feel like people don't realize that you have something and you want it recognized, but you don't know how to voice it. So what I mean by that is like, because for years and years, I've always wanted to be hearing, which is weird because I always say I don't want it anymore. But it was a really hard time for me to be accepted because I got bullied, picked on. A lot of people would always look at me and judge me for who I am. It didn't start until I reached, I would say, halfway through middle school is when I finally said, you know what, I'm gonna like embrace my deafness. I'm not gonna hide or anything. I'm just not gonna hide my deafness no more. So I started signing more. I started getting involved more with other deaf people because I would always try to hang out with hearing people instead of deaf people because I felt, you know, if I was hanging out with a deaf person, would I be looked at differently? Would they not be friends with me? But now I'm grateful and thankful that I have hearing friends that are learning ASL for me, that took ASL classes for me, and I'm thankful for my sisters learning sign language for me and asking questions. But it really took a long time for me to have that confidence, that saying that, I'm not gonna let this bring me down because of the bullying of the picking or the judgment faces. But it took really a long time for me to accept myself for who I am. But now I have a YouTube channel and I'm here. So yeah. What makes the deaf culture slash community different from others? This one I haven't gotten, so it's new to answer. So with the deaf community slash culture, is different because you have a deaf community and then you have deaf culture. Deaf culture is where you know from the history what happened to deaf people, and I will do a video on that in a future video. So yeah, the difference from that compared to other cultures and communities is it's like varied, is different because everyone's in it. If that makes sense. It's like you have, not to be rude, but I'm just gonna say it because deaf people are blunt. So that's how we roll here. There's black people, there's gay people, there's lesbian people, there's bisexual people, there's trans, there's all the races you can think of can be deaf. Then you have different types of deaf people. You have deaf people who don't wear nothing, they don't wanna, they just go deafless, which I like to call it, where you don't have your hearing aids, you don't have a cochlear implant, you don't really do anything that involves with technology to help you hear. Then you have your deaf people who have hearing aids and can speak English, sign. Then you have your other deaf kids who have cochlear, CIs, implants. And then you have deaf people who don't know how to sign. You have deaf people who have different signs because they're from a different country or state, because it varies between states. So the deaf culture and community is really different because you have people from Brazil, you have people from the UK, you have people from Germany, China, Japan. You have a lot of people who have different signs, different ways of handling their deafness. So there's not really a really different way, it's just more drastic and more cultures within another culture. So it's two worlds in one. That's what I like to call it. Because I like to call it two worlds in one because, one, I'm inside of a hearing world that's mostly hearing, but at the same time, I'm in a deaf world because I'm living in a deaf world because not a lot of people know sign like I go. Number 9, which and how has technology helped you communicate with hearing people? Technology nowadays helped with closed caption, which just means your YouTube channel, which is right now, you have the option of closed captions, you have closed caption for TV shows. That helps a lot because whenever you're watching people film, you don't always see their mouth, so you can't read it. Or if I'm out in public, I tend to like to point to menus, or I like to text it through my phone, which is the notes, and I'll text it. Or if you have pen and paper, you can write. So there's a lot of ways to communicate with the deaf people. And I feel like me as a hearing person, well, not a hearing person, oh my god. As a deaf person, I tend to be quiet because if I use my voice, I feel kind of shy about it in a way because I tend to sign more than I really do speak. I feel like when I'm in public, it's just like if I sign, what if that person doesn't understand me and doesn't serve me, you know? So I feel like that's easier for me to communicate without having to struggle. Because with the mask nowadays, it's hard. So I kind of just use my deaf card. So that means you basically just stay quiet. You don't sign. You just gesture. You be like. So that's how it is. Number 10. Has the mainstream perception of the deaf community changed with the communication of technology? Yes, it has. So the change of mainstream basically means deaf and hearing people in the same room or school, college, anything. I feel like that has changed because deaf people started advocating for themselves. I feel like the more deaf people advocated for themselves, the more they started growing confident and they asked for help, like interpreter services, having an interpreter on site to sign to help you understand, to write anything and to let you know before a meeting starts or before you have something big happening, to help you go through doctor's visits and everything, because you know it's hard to understand people at times when you're deaf, because you never know when your battery might die or whenever you're having problems with your own technology to help you or to assist you hearing and stuff. So yeah. Number 11. How do I think social media basically portrays the deaf community? Oh, I feel like social media basically like underdogs deaf people, because I feel like with people seeing more deaf people showing up, they're like, can you speak? Can you sign? Can you do this and this and this? But it's mostly, can you speak? Because, you know, you're used to speaking. You're not used to seeing sign. So I tend to feel like, you know, the more I get that question, the more I'm like, I don't want to speak because it's like tiring at the same time, but at the same time, it's an easier communication broadness. But with the communication comes with the struggle. So I feel like social media portrays that as like deaf people can't, because you see a lot of people pick on deaf people or disabled people. You see them try to underdog them, but there's a deaf actor, there's deaf people out there who are really amazing at what they do. Like Switch at Birth. There's a lot of deaf people in that show, and that's really inspiring. There's a lot of deaf people who like to help other deaf people. So I tend to feel like social media feels like they're not really afraid of deaf people, but they don't know how to react to a deaf person. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to communicate the proper way. Number 12. What is hearing aids and what is a cochlear implant? And what is the difference? Okay, so a hearing aid is like this. So excuse me if you hear the noise. I'm sorry, I can't hear it. Well, that's dizzy. As you can see, whenever I take out my hearing aids, there's a different balance to it. So this is a hearing aid. A hearing aid helps me. It basically just amplifies the sound 2 times more. So it basically helps me hear something that I wouldn't normally hear, like talking, a dog, door, the doorbell. I can't really hear cars like that, but it basically amplifies sounds for me. So this is a hearing aid. I don't have a picture of a cochlear, but if I do find one, I will post it, like over here somewhere. But this is a hearing aid. It runs on batteries. So this is the battery part right here. So it basically runs on a battery like anything would normally would, but it's different because, you know, yeah. So once you click it on, you put it on, and then it makes weird noises, but that's a hearing aid. A cochlear is something that you have to get surgery on. So the surgery is the back of your neck, right here. That's where you get your surgery. That's where you get your surgery from. They drill into your skull, then they put a magnet on it, put it in, you wait for it to heal, then you have another magnet that attaches to it, because this magnet basically attaches to your cochlea, and your cochlea is inside your ear, which helps you hear. Your cochlea is made of hair that allows you to hear. For deaf people, we can't get that back. So there's not really a cure for deafness, only to assist what we lost. So a cochlear implant is forever, it's permanent, you can't go back. You won't be able to hear again if you got it. So a cochlear implant, basically there's a magnet that stays right here, and it's kind of like a hearing aid, but there's a wire attached to it and there's a magnet on top. So whenever you put it on, you have the little hook thing that attaches to your ear and just sits, and then you attach the magnet where your other magnet, and it basically makes you hear the sounds. And a lot of people will see deaf people with cochlear implants sound better than deaf people who have hearing aids, because hearing aids only make you louder, so you speak louder but not real clearly. But with a cochlear implant, it helps you more because it's connected to your brain. If that makes sense. Can I listen to music? Yes, I can. The vibration. There's vibrations. These ones are Bluetooth hearing aids, but when I didn't have Bluetooth hearing aids, I would put on headphones and just turn up the music as loud as I possibly can and just listen and feel the vibration through my ear, because music has vibrations. Can I call or FaceTime people? Yes, I can. Whenever I call, I have a program on my phone that allows me to hear better. So it blocks like the car noises, or it sometimes amplifies my speech so other people can hear me, because I tend to talk quietly when I'm on the phone. But with FaceTime, I can see, I can read your lips, I can talk normally and everything. How long do you think the average hearing person can learn sign language fluently? That is the question that I dear most, because it's all about practice. And I keep telling y'all this every video, but you have to practice. It's just like the way deaf people who don't know how to do ASL, they practice every single day because they want to be able to communicate with other deaf people and also have that communication involvement in the deaf community. So I feel like with that question, you just really have to practice and show your commitment to learning and to show to yourself that you can do it. So that's all I have for today's video. Really, I'm proud of you guys for how far you became and how you're trying to learn ASL and how you're trying to get involved with the deaf community. But I also want y'all to be involved by like commenting what you want to see, what you want to learn. I can't do cuss words because I'm not allowed to because of YouTube's guidelines. But with that, I feel like I'm proud of you all for trying. Keep practicing every day. I will keep saying it until you get it in your brain. Keep practicing, because practice makes better. But that's all I have for this video today. Comment what you want to learn in the next few videos. Other than that, have a good day.